So today I want to share my story. Can you hear me? No? All right. Hello? Can you hear me now? All right. Sorry if I'm a little bit shy. Okay, it's working now. Good. If you want a copy of today's slideshow, that's the QR code that you may want to scan. All right? Okay. So today I want to share my story of evolution and adaptation, inspiring how we can re-envision the future of our businesses even in the aftermath of a pandemic. So, next slide please. So who am I? So thank you Robin for the introduction. So there are quite a few QR codes for you if you're interested. So if you want to stay in touch, you can take a picture of the QR codes and that will lead you to my website and my contact details. Next slide please. Thanks. Okay, so through my presentation, please try to answer these two big questions in your head because I don't want you to just listen to my story. I want you to get something out of it. So think about your own businesses. I know yours may not be education related, but think about how can your business evolve, okay? And how can you go beyond that? When your business evolves, very likely it is still, within your existing industry. You may want to add some new values to it, but when it comes to the second question, how can you go beyond that? You may need to add new values from a different industry, and that's my story that I would love to share with you. At the end of the presentation today, later when we are eating our lunch, feel free to share your thoughts with me, please. Next slide, please. So, before COVID-19, I was just an ordinary teacher at an American international school in Hong Kong. Nothing really special. It was a dream job with good salary, good holidays, you name it. But my passion for education was not confined in a classroom. So I started an NGO, a non-profit making organization called Read to Kids KK. So we promoted, because I believed, quality English language education is not just for those who are wealthy. So I would invite high school students from my international school to volunteer to read to local kids. That was supposed to be, voluntary work. But what began as a simple mission surprisingly transformed into a wave of private tutoring requests, eventually leading me to launch my own language school before I moved to Canada. And then as 2019 approached, my relocation to Toronto here was on the horizon. A few students mentioned, continuing their English language education with me through online classes. I was like, okay. I kind of brushed it off thinking it would be just a side job, all right? Then COVID hit. And that was a big melting point to a lot of people. But for me, it was a moment of introspection and a challenge to innovate. I kept my eyes and mind open to new opportunities around me. So while we were in lockdowns, I was a connector of hearts and minds. So during the pandemic, this love of connection did not stop. I looked for ways to stay connected with people around me, like my students, their parents, friends, business friends, and so on. Through different tools, like we all know Facebook, but then some of my students said, Facebook are for old people, so I created Instagram. And also, and then interestingly, many people in my network were eyeing Canada for better education and migration. At that time, I was thinking in my head, that could be something I could do other than education. Next slide, please. So at that time during lockdowns, I was helping, a lot of people preparing for IELTS, CELPIP, these kind of English proficiency tests in preparation for the immigration and Canadian study plans. That's not it. At that time, I had to spend a lot of time, thinking how I can successfully transition from in-person teaching and learning to online teaching and learning. It wasn't a walk in the park at all. It took hours of research. So during the 2 to 3 years of COVID, I created a podcast with over, I think, 20 episodes now. They're all related to English language education. And also, we have published over 50 ebooks on Amazon, which is the largest online bookstore in the world. They are all my students' successful stories. Other than increasing my presence on the internet, I also had to strategically market my services. So that's why, earlier I showed you, the podcast and the ebooks, which they are like, products, but at the same time, they helped me market my services as well. One thing, technology can be scary, I understand, but please embrace technology, because if you don't control over it, it will control you. All right, with my first corporation, iCare, Global Education Services, as it was, flourishing, I foresaw another hurdle. I was thinking, post-COVID, there would likely be a shift back to in-person learning. Then what would I be doing? My entrepreneurial spirit, always restless, guided by a Chinese saying, be the first to show concern and the last to enjoy comforts. You know what it is in Cantonese? 先天下之憂而憂，後天下之樂而樂. So that Chinese saying spurred me to diversify my offerings. So I was thinking really hard, okay, what can I do? What am I good at? And what do my students need? I took a lot of courage to enroll in the graduate diploma in immigration and citizenship law program. That's the QR code to the program if you would like to know more about it. That's the only English-speaking pathway to becoming immigration consultant in Canada now. The only English-speaking pathway. It was really hard. So I was running my global education business full-time. I was studying full-time. Was it hard? Yes. And I have 2 kids. But I managed to graduate with flying colors. After that, I faced the entry to practice examination at the CIC, passed it, and now, in addition to being a registered ESL teacher, I'm also an RCIC, Regulated Canadian Immigration Consultant. So this way, my business has evolved. So now I'm not just providing educational services. I'm not just giving online English and French classes online. I'm not just giving education consultancy, but I can also go beyond that, which is to give them advice on study permit, study visa, or maybe even after university graduation. How do you apply for post-graduation work permit? How do you become a permanent resident, and so on. So, there were changes in my marketing strategies before and after COVID-19. Before COVID, it was very straightforward. There were only traditional methods like, in-person activities and classes, print, media like teaching materials all on paper, or even in-person events. There's very limited focus on online platforms, and that was an option at that time before COVID. But after COVID, digital dominance is now not an option. It is compulsory if you want to survive. And there are a lot of virtual tours as well. Virtual tours, I have met quite a lot of Canadian newcomers here. Before they landed here as permanent residents, they had never ever been to Canada before. That's their first time here, and they are new immigrants. I thought that's a big risk. They're like, oh yeah, we watched a lot of videos on the internet, so we kind of know Canada now. Same for university applicants. Also engaging content, webinars, online workshops, and also affiliate and partnership marketing, like collaborations with online platforms, you name it.